Well, welcome everyone to Betting Weekly Live. You are with Steve Wyss and Rory Giwani. Quite the intro there, Rory. It was a special request put by yourself. That's got you all fired up for the show.
Has a bit, yeah. I quite like that. I think you described it as speed. You said, "Oh, what do you fancy a bit of speed metal?" I thought, well, yeah, let's give it a go. And yeah, I thought it sounded quite good.
Welcome in everyone. Duncan, good to see you. Ming Chung. And yes, and Etienne did treat me very well over the weekend. We need to have a discussion about XG, by the way, Ming, after your comments you put on the YouTube. Shakespeare, yeah, you switched your side to the Rams last night in the NFL, so well done there. And well done on a great general bit of advice over the wild card around the Bills in particular. Reese, good to see you. And Rory, a man in form. I've got to congratulate you as well, Rory. I mean, it was posted on our social media channels this morning that you had two huge winners in the Australian Open. Zhang delivering for you at plus 225 and also a cheeky correct score bet on the 2-0 at nearly plus 500. So an informed Rory Giwani joins me. Are you enjoying the first Grand Slam of the year so far?
I am quite a lot. We had a couple of near misses. We had Victoria Golubic, who I picked out as my best bet of the first round, and she had 2 match points in the second set tie break, blew them, and then lost to Elise Mertens. If that had gone in, I'd have been very happy indeed. And Jelena Ostapenko was a really good match against Belinda Bencic, but Bencic came through in 2 close sets. But Zhang, really pleased with that. I mean, you know, people who watch the Betting Weekly WTA will know that I'm a big fan of court speed in terms of making predictions. And, you know, the Australian Open, it's playing pretty quick. It's playing pretty much as it always does. And McCartney Kessler, who lost to Zhang, she won in Hobart last weekend and conditions were much slower. The American, she prefers slow conditions. And Zhang has been playing well and she likes quicker conditions, and she got those and we got the results. So that was very pleasing. And hopefully we can keep it up today.
Yeah, as I say, I heard about the match points that kind of went missing there. And I mean, how do you deal with that sort of thing? I suppose it's like maybe soccer where last-minute goals go against you or something like that. All part of the mental process of betting. But yeah, just looking into the comments here, welcome in Villa fan Brian C. Harry as well. David Umazurike, hello to you. You are not too late. You're right on time. Bang on it, Gianeppi. And wow, you got David Hasvili on the anytime scorer against PSG. They've been serving me very well the last 2 weeks in Etienne in France. Stephen Cook, good to see you as well. We're going to start off with some soccer talk today. We've got Premier League, Bundesliga, Serie A, and then full rundown of Rory's picks in the Australian Open. We've got a set of women's games. We're going to have a look at the outright market and a couple of the men's matches as well. But Premier League, we've got a midweek round. The first thing I've got to do is point you in the direction of the Premier League show with Nigel, Jack, and Dan. That's the link there. I put it in the chat. So you're not check that out already, then do so. But we've got 4 matches across the card. Let me know in your comments what is the best bet today in the Premier League for you. West Ham, Fulham, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Brentford, Man City, Forest, Liverpool is a standout game. And I think I'll start things off with the Brentford against Manchester City match here. 89% of the money and 90% of the tickets are on Manchester City. Manchester City, of course, rebounded recently with a couple of wins, albeit maybe a little bit unconvincingly. This is a very interesting match, Rory. I'm sure, I know you do dabble in the soccer from time to time. The Manchester City story over the last few months has been huge. I mean, you probably couldn't have envisioned that they'd be minus 165 to beat Brentford away from home this time of year. They've been a fade for some people. They've recently rebounded. What have you made of the City situation, Rory, overall?
It's been staggering, hasn't it? I mean, I suppose people will point to obviously Rodri being injured, but they seem to have steadied the ship. Pep seems to have steadied the ship now. They've won, I think it's 3 in a row, and Brentford at home have been disappointing of late. Lost at home in the cup to Plymouth, and then lost their previous 2 league games, admittedly to Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. I mean, they did win 5-0 at Southampton, but City, they've won all 3 of their previous Premier League meetings with Brentford. I think it's hard to back Brentford the way they're going at the moment. I don't know. What do you reckon, Steve?
Well, I've got 2 bets for the game I quite like, actually. It's in the first half goal market. Over 1.5 goals in the first half at plus 102 with Bet Rivers. And a little bit of pizza money on the over 2.5 goals in the first half at plus 335. Nigel made a very good point on the Premier League show about the amount of goals that happen in Brentford games, especially at home. Manchester City have been involved in some high-scoring contests of late. They just won 8-0. Okay, some of the players in that match probably won't even see the field this evening. But Brentford matches, it's been my go-to bet in Brentford this season, actually. First half goal line, over 1.5 or over 1.25. I'm worried about, you mentioned Brentford are in trouble at the minute. Well, not trouble, but their form's gone off a bit. The main reason for that has been they're missing players at the back. They've got injuries across the board, especially defensively, but they do have 2 very strong attacking players in Wissa and Mbeumo, who are very capable. So I like the first half goal market here. I think Manchester City come out strong, but you wouldn't trust the Man City defence right now, would you? So I think over 1.5. This would be actually my best Premier League bet of the day. Over 1.5 first half goals in Brentford, Man City at plus 102, and then a little nibble on over 2.5 in the first half. As well, just looking through the comments here, Reece says Liverpool will win. Gianeppi's liking Forest plus 1. Chelsea, Bournemouth under 3.25. And there you go, Wissa and Mbeumo to score against Man City. I think you could back both of those and probably get a profit out of the night. I certainly think Brentford will score in the game. Reece says Bournemouth get a result with Chelsea today. Both teams to score half-time. Brentford City's plus 240. Yeah, that's another angle you could go down, actually. I do think it's right for goals at the G-Tech Stadium. Stephen Cook's going to wait later to see how the match feels. Just going back to the card here. Chelsea-Bournemouth, a few comments about that match already. Just going through the splits for this game. Just 73% of the money's on Chelsea here. I thought there'd be more money on Chelsea. Only 81% of the tickets. And only 71% of the money's on the over for this game as well. Mostly probably because Bournemouth games have some of them have been low scoring, but underlying metrics have been suggesting more goals. A lot of action with Bet Rivers on the player props market for this game. Antoine Semenyo and Dango Uataya. These are quite brave bettors, actually, because they're betting on the under 3.5 and under 2.5 shot lines for both players. Now, that's dangerous because both of those players do like to have a shot, Rory. I'll tell you that much. Their average numbers are quite high. So there's quite a bit of faith there in the Chelsea defence. For what it's worth, I won't be betting on this game, but I do think Chelsea will find a way to win it. Maybe by a 1-goal margin. I think I've imagined it'd be quite split, actually. Already in the comments, actually feels quite split. West Ham, Fulham, London derby. Down there in the Olympic Stadium. And Fulham the favourites. Fulham the favourites at plus 138 now. A bit of money for them. Very good side, actually. Rory, they really do impress me. Very well coached. They'll go under the radar. Graham Potter's West Ham United. I mean, West Ham down the years are known, their fan base quite expectant. The pressure's often on. But, are you expecting Potter to wave a magic wand straight away at West Ham, Rory, for this one or not?
Well, it'll be interesting to see the reception he gets because this is his first home match in charge. Obviously, he used to be Chelsea manager. We know what West Ham fans think of Chelsea. So that's one thing I'm interested in. I was really impressed by Fulham last week. I was cursing you because you tipped up Fulham for the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have backed them at 40-1 with Bet Rivers. I think they're a decent side.
And I was cursing you because Watford's my team. And I mean, you were spot on. And Fulham rested a lot of players. I mean, Watford rested a few players as well. But Fulham won 4-1. Could easily have been 6 or 7. It was very one-sided. It just emphasised the gap. As for me, as a Watford fan, it just demonstrated the gap between the Premier League and the Championship. But Fulham are a good side. They play good football, very neat. They've got good wingers. I was really impressed by them. There's a lot to like about the way they play. And West Ham need to pick up. They need to pick up. Potter needs to turn things around quickly, or they're going to be in a relegation
He's got problems with injuries here, like Giuseppe said here. Jared Bowen's out for a while, and there's other problems. Somerville's ruled out. I think
Antonio's out for a long time, isn't he?
Yes. You do worry where the goals are going to perhaps come from for West Ham. Maybe Kudus would be the one. But, I mean, this could actually maybe be a sneaky under game, under 2.5 goals to actually plus money. But Fulham are known for being involved in certainly a lot of both teams to score matches. In tough game down there. I'll give you the splits here, and it's quite close. 65% of the tickets are on Fulham, which is not massive. It suggests it's more of an even split with the bettors here. Not too much action on this match yet. I think that'll be warming up towards kickoff and probably live as well. The big game on the card, though, is, of course, Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. As some people suggesting if Forest can win this game, they're a title contender. Are you getting any Leicester vibes about Nottingham Forest, Rory, or not?
I don't know. I mean, to me, being slightly older than some of you, to me, this is memories of Brian Clough and the great Forest side of the late 70s. I was a bit young for that, but obviously watched some of the videos and that. And I mean, what a season Forest are having. What a season Liverpool are having. I mean, who'd have thought Arne Slot would be doing this well in his first campaign? I don't know with Liverpool, just perhaps signs that the machine's starting to creak a bit. You had that 2-2 draw with Manchester United, League Cup semi-final first leg, 1-0 defeat to Spurs. Forest are flying. They seem very big for a team clearly in good form. I mean, for me, not that I'd be having a bet on this or recommending it, but I thought the draw no bet or the tie no bet at plus 290 for Forest looked tempting, because I just get the impression Liverpool, lots of people said earlier in the season, when the injuries kick in, they're going to have a problem. It's that time of the season where things can start to slightly unravel. Everyone thinks Liverpool have got the title sewn up, but if they don't win this, if they lose this, the likes of Arsenal and Forest are right there. I don't think Forest have got enough to really be contenders, but if they won tonight, who knows?
They've got an incredible quartet of counter-attacking players. Elanga, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood scoring goals. When they break, they average the lowest possession of any team in the Premier League, by the way, including the ones down at the bottom of the table. We know how they're going to play. No one is maybe giving them enough respect for that at the moment. That match would play out like this anyway, because Liverpool would have a lot of the ball naturally. I think it's just more like the mid-table teams. I don't think are respecting them enough in that way, I would say. Are Forest a bet? Maybe. I mean, plus 425 now on the money line with Bet Rivers. Just give you the splits for this match. 82% of the money is on Liverpool, 85% of the tickets. So generally, they are a popular bet here. 81% of the money is on the under. Now, under 2.5 goals can be grabbed at plus 125 now. Forest with generally a pretty good defensive record this season. Liverpool as well. 1-0 win for Forest in the reverse fixture, by the way. And plenty of player prop action, as you might expect. Mo Salah scored at least 1 goal in 11 of Liverpool's last 12 matches. And biggest player prop bet on this match is on Mo Salah to have over 1.5 shots on target. And it's very hard to argue against that one. We've got a house special from Bet Rivers in the Premier League today. Liverpool, Manchester City, and Chelsea all to win at plus 294. So if you do like those three sides to get the win, that's the play. That's definitely a bet, plus 294. I mean, we've said there's maybe some question marks about all three teams. But if you do like them, then that's a great house special. And also in the Premier League, any two of Mo Salah, Erling Haaland, or Cole Palmer to score. So any two of those three to score is minus 110. Raised odds, Bet Rivers house special. One of them can blank as long as the other two score. Mo Salah, Erling Haaland, or Cole Palmer. And there's also a Bundesliga house special. We're gonna the midweek round in Germany. It doesn't happen very often. It's a bit of a rarity. Dortmund, Leverkusen, and Wolfsburg all to win at plus 270. But I'll be quite wary of that one. Borussia Dortmund is the first match. This is the early kickoff in Germany today, and this is going off at 12:30 Eastern time. Holstein Kiel struggling down towards the foot of the table, plus 475. Dortmund minus 200. Be very careful betting on this game, guys, because there's been a massive illness. Flu has been going around Dortmund. They basically named a skeleton defense on Friday against Leverkusen and conceded within 30 seconds. So I think the Dortmund defense could well be under a lot of pressure from a Kiel side who are not very good, but they tend to scrap quite hard. Dortmund away from home are not very convincing. And I think a bet here that you could look at is Holstein Kiel to score over 1.5 goals at plus 180. They're the sort of time, even if they are losing 3 or 4-0, they will keep going to try and score as many as they can. They can't really defend. And this could be a great opportunity against a Dortmund team missing players. You've got to check the lineups for this. We don't know who's affected. I read an article today. I don't even know how true this is, but apparently Dortmund have recently banned handshakes because to try and basically prevent the spread of these illnesses. That might be a bit of a tongue-in-cheek article, but if that's true, that just shows you the extent of. It's the time of year where stuff can go around, isn't it, Rory? Yeah. I noticed you were a little bit rough the other day. I had it over the new year as well. What can you do when these players are? This is so hard because only if you've got knowledge inside the camp do you know who's going to play today.
It's tricky. You have the same in other sports. In tennis, for instance, when you've got a player who you think is injured or you think is fit and then turns out not to be the case. And we're all on social media these days, and sometimes you're scouring Instagram accounts to try and get some info, but sometimes it's a bit of a shot in the dark. So, yeah, I suppose the watchword would be caution here. And as you say, just see the lineups, see who's playing. And, you assume if they're playing, they're fully fit and go accordingly. But as you say, you'd probably want to be avoiding Dortmund at the moment if that bug's still going round.
On the last live show, I actually said I was going to back every Bundesliga game blind under 2.5 over the weekend, and I did that, and 6 of the 9 did come in. But this is the time of year where goals tend to run dry in Germany. It's often the weather coming back off the winter break, teams like rhythm. But I do think this match here, Kiel-Dortmund, could go stupid over potentially. Like if this went over 4.5 or 5.5, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't. So I think Kiel over 1.5 team total goals at plus 180 could be worth a nibble in this game. I wouldn't trust Dortmund, but Reese does. He thinks that they showed a good fight back against Leverkusen. And to be fair, there's a stat here. Dortmund has won each of its last 8 Bundesliga matches following a loss. So they do tend to rebound quite well. 95% of the tickets are on Dortmund. 98% of the money is on Dortmund as well. Just going in, staying to Germany, put your best bet on the Bundesliga card today in the chat. Wolfsburg, Borussia Mönchengladbach. I'm happy to leave that one alone. I think it could be goals in that game, but that it's one of those. This time of year, will it go over? And Frankfurt Freiburg is definitely a no bet for me. Freiburg are not a team I ever do very well on. I can never predict them right. I'm sure you've got tennis players that you can never get right, Rory. And after so much torture, you end up saying no bet. But Leverkusen Mainz is a really interesting betting heat here. 2 very informed teams. Leverkusen minus 335. Actually, minus 315 now. They have drifted a little bit. Mainz you can get as big as 8-1. Mainz have won 6 of their last 7 games. They're in form. They're an underrated team. They have only lost 2 matches by 2-goal margin or more this season. And I think they can keep Leverkusen close here. Plus 1.5 Asian handicap with Bet Rivers at minus 110. I think that's worth a go. Leverkusen have only had 4 wins by 2-goal margin or more in the Bundesliga this season. It wouldn't actually shock me if Mainz avoided defeat in this game. Mainz are very well coached and could be... this is not a banker. I do rate Leverkusen, but this is not a banker win by any stretch of the imagination. Despite 99% of the money on Leverkusen, that's no real surprise here. There's been some significant wagers on the Mainz total corners for this game, Rory. Over 2.5 and over 3.5 corners there. Over 3.5 Mainz corners at plus 128. That could be an interesting angle. But they may offer more offensively than a lot of people are expecting. Just looking back through the comments here. Forest 1-0, Crystal to score 80-1, says Adam Thompson. That would be a big hit. Como AC Milan. Nico Paziello at plus 450. Harris to score for Kiel, says Ginepi. And looking there, Nigel's stat, Liverpool won once in 14 at Forest. If you watch the Premier League show, there is a very interesting gag that Nigel put on there. It was quite funny. Yes, of course, we love Nigel, a bit of Nigel Seeley. We certainly love the Premier League show at the minute, which is... have some fantastic views and supports. Villa fan asked me, would I back the blanket Bundesliga unders again? The 2 matches I think are going to go over this round are Kiel, Dortmund, and I like the over in Stuttgart, Leipzig tomorrow. So I wouldn't take the under in those 2, but the other matches, the other 7, yeah, I think if you back the other 7 blind under 2.5, you might get a profit, although Bayern might go mental tomorrow against Hoffenheim, potentially. I don't know. I think it's worth a go. Kushel staying away from the Dortmund games. Wolfsburg win, says Rick. Haley, Burkout anytime scorer. Loads of different options here. Reese says he could see a narrow Leverkusen win or a draw. Just got a bit of Serie A, and then we're straight into the tennis, Rory. Como, Milan, and Atalanta, Juventus. Tough card here. Milan under new management. Sergio Conceição was smoking his cigars the weekend, having won the Italian Super Cup. They are minus money favourites away. Assess Fabregas's Como. And Atalanta Juventus is a big match towards the top of the table. Atalanta sometimes just struggle to break teams down. Could be one of those matches here. Potentially, there is a house special from Bet Rivers. Christian Pulisic to score or assist, and AC Milan to win or draw against Como, plus 143 for those who like Christian Pulisic. He's been in good form this season, to be fair. I would lean under 2.5 goals for both games in Serie A today. I just think Conceição is a more tactical manager, and Juventus, well, they have been involved in some more high-scoring matches recently, but in a match like this, Juventus should probably revert to their norm, defend well, try and get something out of the game. Okay, I've talked about soccer long enough. I'm going to give you a big build-up here for the Australian Open, Rory. We've got some matches to talk about. But first of all, I want your thoughts on the outright market, which I'm guessing hasn't changed too much since before a ball was even hit in the tournament. But have you got any thoughts here? Has anyone surprised you in a good or a bad way? Has there actually been any major shocks to impact this market yet? Where would your money be right now on the outright market?
Yeah, not too much has happened. I mean, I think when Nigel and I went through the draw, what was it, last Friday now, we did point out that the bottom half was much weaker than the top. And you've seen a couple of players get backed in the bottom half. So on there, you can see Madison Keys and Jasmine Paolini. Their prices have contracted a bit. But other than that, I mean, Sabalenka's shortened up, the favourite, the world number 1, the 2-time reigning champion. I think she was plus 220 at the start of the tournament.
She wasn't that impressive, though, I heard, Rory.
No, I mean, she was playing Sloane Stephens, who's a Grand Slam winner, well past her best now. And, you know, sometimes it takes a little while for these big players to just warm to the task of a slam. I'd expect Sabalenka to be a bit more impressive in her next match, as we're actually going to be looking at that. But, you can, in the early stages of a slam, it's 2 weeks. It's a long tournament. you don't need to go out all guns blazing at the start. And, it's just getting through the early rounds for some of these players. And Sabalenka, I think we'll see in the next couple of rounds her more like her normal self. But it's interesting. The Australian Open, I was talking about court speed earlier. The indicator I use is service hold percentage. And the service hold percentage in a women's event so far has been 66.6, which is almost bang on standard. Last year it was 66.8, and that's slightly quicker than medium. It's fairly normal for Melbourne, and it makes for good tennis. I mean, I'm a bit tired of, so many of these tournaments are played on slowish hard courts, and they can be a bit dull. You get long rallies and not too many winners, but you're getting plenty of winners in Melbourne. So it's making for exciting tennis. And I think, we're going to have a really good couple of weeks ahead.
I mean, I was watching the Emma Raducanu match yesterday. And I mean, no one could hold serve. I think there was 8 out of 9 games in a row where there was a break of serve. And I was watching this and thinking, what is this? How can this possibly happen? But it sounds like, based on the actual percentages, they're 66%. Doesn't feel too high to me. So it's more of the norm, actually, I suppose. I mean, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous how no one could hold serve. But Rybakina, huge at 9-1 each way. Bet Rivers are clearly the best price in the world right now. Stand out. So if you do like Rybakina, then that is a big price with Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers are dangling a carrot there. I said yesterday on the show, I think the 3 biggest liabilities that Bet Rivers have on the futures that might have changed now was Swiatek was the first biggest liability, and Rybakina was right up there as the second one. So they, at the minute, if the money keeps coming from Rybakina, then is it how you pronounce it? Rybakina?
Rybakina.
Rybakina. I get there in the end.
Yeah. No, she was very impressive. She won 6-1, 6-1 against the home youngster, Emerson Jones, who was the world #1 junior. She was very impressive. The issue with Rybakina is her coaching situation. So she brought Goran Ivanisevic on board, former Wimbledon champion, former coach of Novak Djokovic. Then she brought back her former coach, Stefano Vukov. She announced that he was back in the team. Ivanisevic didn't know about it. Vukov has been suspended by the WTA pending an investigation. I think someone has complained about him, and there was always a bit of edge with him on the side of the court, and sometimes let's just say he wasn't all that encouraging at times towards Rybakina. She said that she doesn't have a problem with him. We're still waiting for the result of this investigation, and who knows what's going on. But judging by that first match, it's not affecting Rybakina at all. So if she carries on in this vein, she's the best server on tour. She's probably the best server we've seen in the women's game. If she's in form and she's mentally right, then she's a threat to everyone.
Definitely. Right. So we've got women's matches to get stuck into here, Rory. And you're going to have a pick in all 4 of these contests here at the Australian Open. Let's start with, I swear, Dan, you always give me some tough names to pronounce here. Moyoka Uchijima versus Mirra Andreeva. Now, these are obviously a big gulf here in the odds. It's expected to be an Andreeva blowouts. And the games line is 17.5. Are you with the favourite or the underdog here, or your games angle?
I'm with the favourite. I mean, one word of warning: there's a fair bit of rain due in Melbourne, so some of these matches might end up going indoors. 3 courts at Melbourne have roofs: Rod Laver, Margaret Court, and John Cain. So some of these matches might not take place when they should. Uchijima Andreeva is on one of the outside courts. Hopefully this will be completed before the rain comes. Uchijima had to save a match point before getting past 31st seed Magda Linette. But Andreeva's going to be far tougher. The 17-year-old, she's, Nigel picked her out as a player to watch, and she's been impressive. She beat Marie Bauskova 6-3, 6-3, and Bauskova's no mug. That was a good win. I think this will be easier. Uchijima might be competitive early on, but I think Andreeva's going to win this fairly comfortably. I actually like Andreeva on the game handicap. I've gone for Andreeva -7.5 games at +116. So you're kind of looking at sort of 6-2, 6-2 to get that done, or 6-1, 6-3, something along those lines. But I fancy Andreeva having, she beat a better opponent. There is. And Uchijima, she had a big winning run on clay last year, if memory serves, but she's not in the same class as the Russian.
Yeah, I mean, is this the sort of match where you could see a bagel, a 6-love set from the favourite, and just especially maybe set 2, where the underdog really struggles?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, sort of one, and we'll probably say the same about the next match as well. But, definitely one to bet in play, and you can see after a few games when there's this kind of golfing class, if that golfing class is being, is playing out before your eyes, then you can get on the second set bagel, the sort of 6-love or 6-1.
Yeah.
And that is one way to attack it. Yeah,
betting in play, there's been a lot of, I was hearing from our traders before we came on air, and there's been a lot of, several 100,000 has been placed on the Australian Open in play. It's really popular way at the minute to be betting, especially with tennis. Just some notable plays today. Madison Keys, someone got on her live on the money line, that cash, $25,000. Jasmine Piolini, set 1. There's so many markets you can bet on. It's not just the money line. It's not just the game lines. You can bet on, you can cash a ticket within 20 or 30 seconds on a market. Next point sort of thing. There's so much out there, whatever floats your boat, in terms of in running and stuff in plays. But another match here, even bigger favourite, Sabalenka. We talked about at the top of the market, the favourite to win the Australian Open. And obviously a huge price here on her opponent, Jessica Bouzas Maneiro. I hope I pronounced her correctly. 16-1 shot. Brilliant. Just how I like it. Spot on here. 16.5 games line. Are you looking to get with Sabalenka here?
Yeah, absolutely. This one's on Rod Laver Arena. Obviously, Sabalenka's a 2-time champion, so she gets a show court. So this one will go ahead even if it's raining. Bouzas Maneiro had a good win in round 1 against Britain's Sone Kartal in straight sets. But this is a very different kettle of fish. Kartal's a grinder. She draws out the rallies. The Spaniard hit 23 winners, which isn't bad. But I expect Sabalenka to blow her off the court here. We know what she's like. She hits the ball probably harder than anyone. She's got a massive game. As many of you will know from the WTA show, I'm not that keen on minus money bets. So I've gone for Sabalenka -8.5 games at +165. And I think one thing is Sabalenka, I think she's going to be absolutely brutal on Bouzas Maneiro's serve. I think she's going to take it to pieces. And I suspect, as we mentioned, she wasn't overly impressive against Sloane Stephens in round 1. I think we'll see the real Sabalenka here against an opponent who doesn't really have the tools to trouble her. I think this could be a very one-sided affair.
+650 for a first set bagel there, if you're interested in betting on that. And you can also get the total games. That actually would cover. It's under 6.5 games in set 1, so it would cover the 6-0 the other way. I think
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. But yeah, good to see you attacking. You can also There's not just one game spread for the tennis. You can pick your spread. -8.5 here at +165 for Rory on Anya Sabalenka to blow her opponent out of the water. I quote from Rory there. Let's go to the comments here. Adam Thompson says he's not a huge follower of the women's tennis, but is Danielle Collins at 150 not a massive price? I don't know much. I can't say I've ever really heard of her, Roy. So this is all on you.
Well, she had a great season last year. So at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of last season, she announced she was retiring, and then, having been one of the most injury-prone players on the tour, she won 2 tournaments back to back. I think she won Miami, her first 1,000, and then the following week, when I said, there's no way she can possibly follow it up, she won in Charleston as well. All went south after that, and she's not started the season particularly well. And I kind of get the feeling, and you could say this about a few players like Danielle Collins, Andreeva. The top players, I feel, have just moved a bit away. The likes of Sabalenka and Goff and Swiatek is probably the same level she was. I mean, she was well above everyone else, and now she's kind of at the same level. You know, those three, and Rybakina, if she gets back to form, I'd say they're still a bit away clear. And I think, you know, it's likely. I mean, I say that I've backed Paolini for this tournament just partly because of the bottom half of the draw being weak. I'd be surprised if Collins went deep here. I mean, she did reach the final in 2022. I think she lost to Ashley Barty. I think it was 22. So, you know, she knows what it's like to go deep here, but I just don't think she's quite playing well enough.
2 more matches on the card. A bit more closer, these ones. Karolina Muchova against Naomi Osaka. Osaka the dog at plus 215 here. Rory, which side? I know you're a big fan of Muchova in general, so I suspect you're going to be with the Czech here.
I'm not actually. I mean, on first glance, I think Osaka's a big price here. I'd love to see Muchova win a slam, but she's in Q2, it's the toughest quarter. And Coco Gauff's in that quarter, and Muchova can't beat Coco Gauff. She's like kryptonite for her. There are some matchups which are just bad for certain players, and Gauff is a horrible matchup for Muchova. Previous meetings are interesting here. In Madrid in 2021, Muchova won in 3 sets, but then Osaka's never performed on clay. In Cincinnati the year before, Osaka won 6-2 in the third. She actually made the final of that tournament and then followed that up by winning the US Open, beating Victoria Azarenka in the final. And she was due to meet Azarenka in the Cincinnati final. I think Osaka, I mean, she looked really good in Auckland. She won the first set in the final in Auckland against Clara Towson and then had to pull out injured. She had to dig deep in round 1 against Caroline Garcia, whose serve is pretty difficult to deal with. I mean, Muchova won when they last met. That was at the US Open, just gone in August, September. Muchova won 6-3, 7-6. Overs has cashed each time they've met. So that's one potential angle here. They're both very good servers. Muchova didn't drop her serve against Nadia Podoroska. She won 6-1, 6-1, but she was expected to. There have been tie breaks in 2 of their 3 previous meetings. And, you know, you link that in with them both being good serves. So over half a tie break, so that's, you're betting on there being a tie break, is plus 175. Over 2.5 sets is plus 150 as well. One thing is, I'm amazed, it's the pick of the round and it's not on a show court. So they might be hanging around due to the rain. I think Osaka's too big. I think this is going to be close. I think if she's back to anything like her best, she wins this. You know, she won 4 Grand Slams. She won 2 Australian Opens. I think she's too big at plus 215, and I like the chances of a tie break at plus 175.
Stars of the Pitch says that was the best tip on Zhang, Rory. Any hot dogs today? Well, there is a hot dog for you at plus 215, I think, on the money line there for Osaka. Jule Niemeier against Marta Kostyuk Is this another dog you like, Rory? Or are we going back to favourite backing?
No, we like the dog here as well.
Another dog.
Yeah, Kostyuk took a while to get going against Naomi in round one. The Japanese player. She dropped the first set and then she won the next two 6-3, 6-1. Didn't drop serve in those last two sets. But Niemeier, well, this came from nowhere. She'd been in pretty dismal form for months. But she absolutely destroyed Maja Trzelinska, the Polish player, Polish left-hander. 6-love, 6-1. And in just 13 games, she hit 33 winners to 20 unforced errors. She was practically unplayable. She was hitting the lines, just hitting winners left, right, and centre. If she plays like that again, she'll beat Kostyuk. She'll beat most players playing like that again. That's the question mark. Can she repeat it? I mean, she reached the quarterfinals at Wimbledon in 2022. And on the evidence of that first round match, if she might be back to that level. And if she plays like she did in the first round, she'll go quite deep in this tournament. So what you're betting on is whether she can reproduce that. That's the big question mark. At plus 200, I'm happy to take the chance because Kostyuk wasn't that impressive. She was a bit of a slow starter in her first round match, whereas Niemeier just looked phenomenal. I mean, she hits the ball very hard. Conditions are quick. Again, this could, the weather might have a role here because they might be waiting around because of the rain. It might be cooler, so it won't be as quick. But given what they showed in the first round, Niemeier at plus 200 is a definite bet here.
Yeah, I think a few too many Meyers involved in that last match, Rory. A commentator's nightmare there. It wouldn't have been too easy, would it? But you've got one men's bet for us, and I put a selection of the other big matches on the card. There's also going to be a game bet match podcast video coming out on the channel with Sean and Nigel. It might already be up actually, and he talks about some other matches here. But you have got a bet in the Reilly Opelka game against Thomas Makach. Opelka plus 200 dog here. Game's line at 42.5. Which is the direction you're heading for this men's match?
Yeah, it's another dog for me.
Actually, barking today, Rory.
Yes. 2 stops short of Dagenham, perhaps. No, Opelka, he's actually drifted because he was plus 180 when I looked earlier. I mean, for people that don't know, I'm sure most of you do, Reilly Opelka, massive American. He's almost 7 foot tall. He's got a massive serve. He's very hard to break. He served 38 aces in his opening win over Gautier Klein. He was broken 3 times in total, twice in the first set. Took a little while to get going, but once that serve gets going, it's very hard to stop. Makach had to come from 3-love down in the third to beat Sumit Nagal in straight sets, the Indian player. Both of them have injury issues. I mean, they're both a bit fragile, Opelka especially. But Opelka in Brisbane recently, he beat Novak Djokovic in straight sets. He beat the French sensation Giovanni Pesci-Pericard in straight sets as well. And then he had to pull out during the final against Yuri Lehechka. If he stays in one piece here, I think he wins this because it's just so hard to break his serve. I did look at tie breaks because obviously 2 players, good serve. Opelka doesn't drop serve often, but the traders are wise to that. Over 1.5 tie breaks is plus 123. So it's short and rightly so. But Opelka on the money line at plus 200, I think is a bet. The question mark is whether his body holds up. And Makach is not the most robust either. So I think at the prices, you've got to have a little bet on Opelka.
Is this on a show court or one of the outside courts? So whether looking...
Yeah, it's on one of the outside courts. So I think it's early, though. So I think they might get this done, or at least most of it done before the rain comes, I'm thinking.
Rain delays, is it going to affect certain players more than others? You're on about injured players there. Can't help players who are regularly injured, having to warm up, cool down, on and off. I heard, I was listening to both you and Sean mention and Nigel about the conditions are not as warm in Australia compared to some of the previous runnings of the Australian Open. So I guess that might help those who suffer from fatigue and stuff like that. But it is a factor when the rain's on there. Can you get some strange results when you get in these rain-affected games?
Yeah, you can. And it's, we always talk about, I don't like the word myself, but momentum's quite a big thing, isn't it? If someone is suddenly, is flying, they're in great form, the rain comes, it stops them in their tracks, and then they've got to regroup, come back out. The opponent comes back and got away with that and comes back rejuvenated. So, it can have a big impact, especially when you're getting to the business end of a set. Someone is, say, serving for the set at 5-4, suddenly the rain comes, and then they've got to come out fresh and try and do it again.
Just a selection of other games before we go. Casper Ruud against Jakub Mensik and Arthur Cazio against Jacob Fernley. Two really close games there. And then a match that caught my eye, Jack Draper against Kokkinakis. This should be quite a spicy affair. You got to think. Jack Draper at -245. Is he an easy favourite here, do you think, Rory, or will Kokkinakis put up a good fight?
I think Draper is another one with sort of injury clouds over him. I mean, his first match of 2025 was his first round match here, where he came from 2-1 down to beat Mariano Navoni, the Argentinian. Kokkinakis has had loads of injuries down the years, but he'll have the crowd behind him. His serve is far more potent than Navoni's. I mean, this isn't one to bet on because, frankly, you're just not sure either of them will last the distance.
What is going on with the injuries? That's all I keep hearing at the minute. There's so many players injured. I mean, this is the first Grand Slam of the year. I mean, normally, by September is when these players should be going down. What have they been doing in their time off, Rory? I mean, what's going on these days?
Well, the break isn't very long, is one thing. You'd think in those sort of, couple of months, you'd think that they'd have time to sort of get over any niggles they had at the end of the season. But it does feel like a lot have come back not fully fit. Draper wasn't great in the first round. And Kokkinakis, I mean, a lot of you will remember that epic he had with Andy Murray a couple of years ago. It was almost 6 hours. I couldn't have a bet on this. Jacob Fernley against Arthur Cazio is interesting. I thought Cazio would be shorter. I mean, Fernley, got past Nick Kyrgios in the first round. It could be a bit after the Lord Mayor's show. Obviously, it was a big atmosphere, big support for Kyrgios, won in straight sets. Cazio had a good run in the Paris Indoor late last year. So he's no mug in quick conditions. He beat Sebastian Baez in 5 sets in round 1. He's higher in the world rankings. Not a bet, but I just get the feeling the bookies know something I don't on this one. And the other one, Casper Ruud against Jakub Mensik, is interesting because Ruud did play well in the United Cup. He beat Hubert Hurkacz and he defeated Makak, who we talked about earlier. But he was made to work really hard in round 1 by a clay court specialist in Jaime Munar. Mensik, he's a good young player, knocked out Ben Shelton in Auckland, surprisingly lost to Nuno Borges in the quarterfinals. Here in Melbourne, he served 31 aces in his first round win over Nicolas Basilashvili. I think Mensik could win a set here. And, the bookies think he's got a chance, only +118. Could be close. I'd expect Ruud to win, but I think Mensik will give him something to think about.
Nigel says he really likes Mensik, but Sean talked him out of it on the Betting Weekly Game Bet match today, and Sean has covered the TFO game just in reply to Zombor Palfi there. Thanks very much for your comments. Sonoya says Osaka's the better player, could win the tournament if she's on form. And Mandeep Singh says Osaka +3.5 could be worth looking at as well. Rublev, we talked about Rublev yesterday. Played some horrible tennis. Apparently, says player cam. Fonseca, the wonder, the new star, the big name. We talked about him yesterday on the live show. But that brings to an end our time together, Rory, on Betting Weekly Live. It was an absolute pleasure. As always, loads of bets to discuss. Check back on the Soccer Talk at the top of the show, and then Rory went through 4 picks on the women's card there. If you did have to actually have a best bet today, Rory, what do you think it would be?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the Sabalenka -8.5 games. I think that, plus 165. I think that's going to be one-way traffic.
How often would a match be won 6-love? I mean, I wouldn't know the stats or anything, but I mean, yeah.
The last one, you probably get 3 or 4 a year. I remember Swiatek winning one at the French Open last year. She beat Anastasia Potapova 6-love. You don't get them. Yeah, you probably get a handful a year. But early stages of the slams are probably where they're most likely, because that's when you get, sometimes you get the top players playing players who don't normally get to the big tournaments in the year. So sometimes in the early stages, you can get those mismatches.
Yeah, well, good luck with that play and all your others as well, Rory. Absolute pleasure having you on the show. And there'll be more content from you throughout the Australian Open with Nigel, I think. I'm not sure about whether you're on the live show next week or not. I'll have to check the schedule there. I know Sean is going to be on Friday on the live show with we've got two guests on Friday along with Dan Roebuck. I'm off tomorrow. Jack Wright is going to be joining Mr. Roebuck for a breakdown. We've got Premier League, we've got other matches across Europe as well. And do check out the latest Game Bet Match episode, which might already been released. I'm not sure. If not, then very, very soon. But remember to gamble responsibly. Take care of yourself. It was an absolute pleasure as always, Rory. And we'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Live.